of this morning's must-read opinion pages are focused on the war in Ukraine. Max Boot writes in the Washington Post, quote, Russia keeps losing wars because of its dysfunctional military culture. He writes this: all of the Russian military's manifold deficiencies have been brutally exposed during its unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. These include corruption, brutality, low morale, poor planning, faulty logistics, bad intelligence, lack of coordination between units, over-centralization, and a paucity of initiative on the part of junior officers and sergeants. Max goes on to write, I expect the Ukrainians to continue winning the war, providing they continue to receive the weapons and ammunition they need from the West. A superior military culture is Ukraine's secret weapon. And this is a narrative we've started to hear more often, including this morning, Joe, which is that Ukraine may not just fight off Russia, they may win the war.
They may actually win the war. And of course, the Russians, we've heard all along, they have mass, have 8 times the number of people in uniform than the Ukrainians. But that's not really the case. The Russians are fighting 40 million Ukrainians. They came in and found out that they weren't just fighting a few people, a few outliers. They were fighting the entire population, an angry, determined population. And culture, Max is so right, culture is critical. It's critical whether you're talking about an athletic program where one coach coming in can change the environment of an entire athletic program, whether you're talking about a business, whether you're talking about government, or yes, whether you're talking about armies on the battlefield. That's what, Mika, when I keep hearing people, and we've been hearing it for 6 weeks, people saying, yes, the Ukrainians are doing well now, but the Russians are going to send in more reinforcements. Yes, but now they're moving to the Donbass, and now they're going to be able to connect. We've been hearing this now for 48, 49 days. And the reason why the Russians have never been able to connect all those lines that Clint Watts and others have been saying they're trying to connect on the battlefield is, it's not about weapons. It's not about mass. It is about culture. And I keep saying this, but for our friends on the West Coast who may just be waking up right now and wiping their eyes and having their Cheerios, it happened to the Soviet Union. It's why Hitler in June of 41 was able to sweep as quickly across Russian territory as he was, because Stalin had purged his top generals over the past decade. There was nobody in charge of the military. We find that, Mika, right now because of corruption in the ranks, because of brutality in the ranks, and because they don't respect their people. You know, there's one of the things I hear about Marines that you know, when you talk to Marines that talk about how they act out in the field, it's always the leaders who eat last. They always take care of everybody else, and the leaders eat last. Here we have Julia Yaffe, who came on talking about how those people up front in the Russian army are treated with contempt. And they're not called cannon fodder. Julia says they're called cannon meat. Leaders have contempt for the conscripts. They have contempt for the very people who are fighting these wars. And it shows up. It rots that culture. Yeah. And it shows up on the battlefield. And this is why the Russians can throw as many troops as the Ukrainians as they want. I suspect at the end of the day, just like the United States in Vietnam, you're just throwing good money after bad. You're just throwing good new soldiers after old soldiers. It's just not a winning formula.
The Russian military is confused. It's disorganized. There's reports of their camps being left just trashed. And, you know, a lot of wars are won not just on numbers, but logistics. And logistics are driven by shared passion. And this is something Admiral Stavridis always talks about on our show.
Discipline.
That discipline, though, is synchronicity, shared passion, shared goals. They don't have it. Also in the Washington Post, Michael Gerson has one entitled, If Putin isn't stopped in Ukraine, the Baltics are likely next. Quote, the Putin-NATO divide might not rise to the level of ideological conflict, but it does involve a serious argument about the future of Europe. Some will propose that President Volodymyr Zelensky make the necessary concessions, no Ukrainian NATO membership, Russian control control of the Donbass region to end a bloody war. Peace through self-dismemberment. But if Putin is attempting to reconstruct the Russian sphere of influence in Europe, his success in Ukraine would pave the way for future horrors. The logic that led to Russian aggression in Georgia and Ukraine, no NATO in the Russian sphere, would almost certainly lead toward the Baltics. Helping draw a NATO red line at Ukraine could help the United States preserve itself from impossible choices of the future.
And that's why it is.
That's a really good question.
It is so critical that Joe Biden has said repeatedly, and Willie, other leaders have said repeatedly, we're going to fight and defend every inch of NATO soil. That message repeated has been heard by our allies in Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. It makes a difference.
No question about it. And if Vladimir Putin's goal was to break up NATO, to destroy NATO, that has backfired too. They're now adding Finland and Sweden expected to come this summer. So that even that he's lost on.
Yep. Coming up, Mark Morial joins us with a look at the state of Black America.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.